right, we are live. Day 7. Some acronyms are going to be studied for the CompTIA Security Plus tonight. That's what we'll just be focusing on. Try not to make this one too long. I'm feeling a little tired today. So let's see how far we get. Um, FIM, File Integrity Monitoring. File Integrity Monitoring. Let's see. Use the FI here as a remembrance. I for integrity, and then integrity of something, a file, monitoring, FP, FPGA, field programmable gate array. Haven't seen this one. Uh, in any of the questions that I've gone through so far. FRR, false rejection rate. FTP, file transfer protocol. FTPS, secured file transfer protocol. This is port 21, and then this is the SSL version of FTP. GCM, Galois slash counter mode. Galois? uh, I don't know what that one is. I haven't seen that one either. GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. This is um, a regulation created by the European Union um, to require companies to provide information on how data is being used, specifically personal identifiable information on their systems. Also provide full transparency on what the data is going to be used for. Um, and as it's a long list of uh, requirements from a organization for citizens that live in the EU. Um, well, to protect citizens that live in the EU. GPG, uh, GNU, uh, Privacy Guard. Let's keep going. GPO, Group Policy Object, um, Group Policy Manager does exist on, or does exist on Windows systems. And I think it was a group policy editor is the term I was looking for. Um, and it could be used to set up rules and permissions for a system. A user not being able to access certain features in Windows, or creating new policies. There's various templates that can be set up that go from like just a desktop to all the networking devices to your servers to your printers, and all of the sort. Um, yeah, so kind of the name policy. Group policy editor. This one is group policy object. This could be potential objects in the group policy. Uh, we'll have to read up on that one to see if that's true. GPS, global positioning system. Um, a lot of us might have this on our cars or in our cars. You'll have it in your smartphone. Google Maps, Apple Maps um, is a GPS. GPU, graphics processing units. If you're a gamer, you'll be familiar with GPUs. NVIDIA, AMD, even Intel got their own GPUs now. It's a unit that processes your graphics on your systems. Um, there are internal GPUs that are just on the CPU die themselves, um, uh, um, called iGPUs. Intel processors come with a lot of come with those. AMD processors do come with those. I believe the G variants come with them. Um, so yeah, um, GPUs and very old and still popular used thing even in these new systems that are being built for AI usage, like Dolly or Midjourney, right? Generative AI that's creating images off of texts heavily uses GPUs. Um, GRE, um, um, not to be confused with anyone taking the GRE for college admissions. Uh, Generic routing encapsulation. Um, um, HA, high availability. This is something you'll see in a lot of IT uh, jobs, the discussion of high availability and ensuring that uh, when systems do go down, or when a system does go down, it doesn't affect the uptime of an application, and that there are other systems available to take on uh, the traffic for that app, right? And then those can just be automatically swapped over using something like a load balancer, where load will just be pushed to wherever is available. If you have four nodes that uh, host your web server and one of them goes down, you still have three. The load balancer will just use those three and ignore the fourth one. High availability is monumentally important in businesses so that they can continue to operate. HDD, hard disk drive. So these are for just reference. There's an SSD, a solid state drive, and then an HDD. HDDs are the older variants of drives. They are the spinning disk ones that you hear kind of wind up when you turn on your system. HDDs again are relatively old technology, but still used to this day, used in network attached storage like a NAS, direct attached storage like a DAS, used in servers for enterprise use. HDDs are still heavily involved in systems today. Solid state is used in there for caching, but primarily for storage. HDDs are used. Um, so yeah, HIDS hosts base intrusion detection system. So this is something that would be stored on the client device itself to detect any issues um, um, and uh, let let a let the IT team know that that there was an intrusion uh, an intrusion to sorry I can't even talk right now um, um, that there was a detected intrusion. Some examples would be um, something like if you're familiar with SolarWinds Security Event Manager. Um, there's a OS there's Splunk. Snort is another popular one. Um, I think that's all the ones that I am aware of. I think there's a few more, but yeah, SolarWind is a popular one, and Snort is another popular one. Splunk is a widely used one. Haven't heard too much of OSSec, but yeah, that's kind of an example of uh, of HIDS or host based intrusion detection systems. So HIPS, a very similar uh, one, um, is not just detecting, but ultimately uh, preventing the intrusion of client devices. And it's an intrusion system um, that stops an attack from occurring. Um, Same examples can be given. Um, as the IDS system because they kind of work hand in hand. There are systems to detect, and there's also systems to prevent. Um, and the different endpoint security systems have an HIPS. Um, HMAC hash base message authentication code. So I have seen this one in the some of the questions that I've been going over. Um, this one, not too keen on. We'll have to do more reading on that. HOTP, HMAC base one-time password. So host base message authentication code, one-time password. So you'll receive a password once, and um, that's how you'd be authenticated to the system. But these two go hand in hand, and I'd probably need to do a little more reading to give better examples there. MMS, multimedia messaging server or service. MMSs are fairly old tech, um, and um, it is almost like the the oh well let me back up here. So MMSs are essentially like the way that you send media over SMS, right? Uh, the idea of them um, would be like if you sent a picture uh, over one device to another device, in this case, like a smartphone. Um, um, yeah, and it's very similar to SMS. SMS is the text-based version of MMS is the, I guess, media-based version, pictures, videos, right? So that's kind of the best way I can explain it there. MOA, memorandum of agreement. So this is more of an administrative or managerial piece. MOU, memorandum of understanding, kind of go hand in hand here. MPLS, multi-protocol label switching. Um, not too familiar with that one, but haven't seen that one in the questions yet. MSA, systems analysis. MS Chap, I have seen this one. Microsoft Challenge Handshake authentication protocol. Um, uh, and this is usually done whenever um, whenever a um, trying to think here best way I could explain this. Essentially, it's the process of having a shared key between the client and the server. Um, and the idea here is that both the client and the server essentially uh, do a three-way handshake where, and when it's successful, then authentication is complete, right? And the idea is no passwords are exposed or any of that, right? Um, it's essentially just a handshake project, a handshake process that um, sends to the server a challenge, and that server sends back uh, uh, a secret, right? And then the client answers with their credentials, and then the server authenticates the client, right? Um, Best way I can explain that one, but would probably need to do more more examples on this one. MSP, managed service provider. So this is a very huge. Uh, there's a lot of jobs for a managed service provider. Um, Usually, they're providers that are outside of the company, like a third party. Then they remotely manage the IT for the business. So kind of like outsourcing IT, if that makes sense, where uh, they kind of all work together, but it's not. They're not in the same realm, right? Um, could be a contracted company doing the IT work and so on and so forth. MSSP, managed security service provider. So, instead of just a regular service provider that's providing, um, just services. Could be IT, could be really anything. Um, this one would focus on security, um, and would provide them like a security department essentially, right, or access to smart, uh, capable security consultants that could help the business. MTBF, mean time between failures, and we got mean time to failure. MTTF, mean time to repair, right? And those are all kind of they're all in the same realm. Uh, MTU, maximum transmission unit. Um, Max amount of transmissions that can be sent, or it seems more like a measurement of transmissions. Um, NAC, network access control, a AC for a network. Um, who can access what on the network, um, and various controls for permissions. NAS, so we kind of touched on this in a previous one. Network attached storage. It is a um, it is a device on your network that essentially um, handles storage. It could be used for backups for VMs or hypervisors. It could be storing photos for your family. Uh, it's all over the network, so you can do it over your phone or tablet. Any device that can connect to the network would be able to um, access the NAS. Certain folders could be made public so that it can be seen by all devices, or it could just be restricted to a couple devices. You can do stuff like MAC filtering, right? To For that, users could be created, and um, companies like QNAP and Synology, um, as examples of companies that do make NASs, um, and they're used quite heavily in businesses, small businesses up to large ones. Um, NAT, network address translation. So NAT can be uh, is how uh, your network address is translated over the network. A NAT is a specific setting. Whenever best example I can give is it's VM. When you're setting up a network for a VM, you are asked what type of network would you want, and NAT is one of them. Um, NDA, non-disclosure agreement. This is a managerial or administrative document that is signed at the time of employment or at the time of a project, usually indicating that you cannot disclose specific information about said job. NFC, near field communication. So this is on smartphones, uh, essentially mobile devices. NFC is a technology that allows you to wirelessly transmit information between two devices when they're right next to each other. So really speedy whenever you want to example like share a video or a high quality one very quickly between two devices. Um, Works great most of the time. Um, and there are exploits for NFC, so I would recommend not having it on all the time. Um, and NFC could be cool too. You could actually write NFC data to little tokens and kind of have them all around your business, or have an NFC key card that you can write information to. Some conferences where the NFC tags have Rick rolls on them to prank the IT folks. So yeah, NFC, a cool technology. NFV, network function virtualization. Uh, uh, the idea of virtualizing a network, I believe, here is what they're trying to say with this one, but it could be wrong. NGFW, next gen firewall. These are uh, advanced firewalls used to prevent attacks from accessing the network, so they'd be blocked prior to entering your network. Um, and usually placed outside of your network somewhere in the DMZ, demilitarized zone DMZ. NGSWG, next generation secure web gateway. Um, I haven't heard of this one, um, but I would assume it's a gateway that you access prior to getting access to a network. Um, I would assume, and just as a guess, that hotels are a good example of there's a small agreement or a gateway or a portal you enter. That could be a captive portal. Yeah, I won't guess if I don't know. So let's move on. An NIC or a NIC is a network interface card. So NICs can be proprietary cards or directly installed into the systems. Um, a NIC is a piece of networking equipment that is usually containing some sort of like Ethernet device, uh, or or uh, or a connection, right? Or it could be 10 gig where you need I believe it was an SPF port. Uh, NIC expandability is something that's on a lot of devices. PCIe has NIC expandability on most motherboards. Synology has NIC expandability on some of their NASs. It's just so that you could have direct wired access to your network if you are kind of stuck with Wi-Fi. NIDS, Network Base Intrusion Detection System, um, um, a kind of says it in the name here, an intrusion detection system for a network. And the same NIPS, intrusion preventive. Wow, talking is hard tonight. Intrusion prevention system for a network. Um, uh, NIST, National Institute of Technology of Standards and Technologies. This is a framework that's followed by it's a very large list of frameworks that are set up to aid in the advancement of standards and in technology. NIST is a cybersecurity framework that's um, used heavily in many different companies. Was developed by the United States Department of Commerce. um, and heavily used in government, along with um, various other institutions. Yeah, and it not only does cyber risk or that of the sort, but also focuses on how you set up a proper uh, system to help identify, protect, and continue to operate your business. NOC, uh, Network Operation Centers. Uh, so, um, and operation centers, or you can think of them as like um, the best example I can give is a data center where there's a large building that contains equipment, and that equipment is then managed by IT people in that building. And in this scenario here, it would be focused on network equipment, switches, routers, access points. NOC a NOC analyst is an actual title and job. Uh, Same with a SOC analyst, a security operations center analyst, um, and yeah, very popular. Um, it's quite saturated, so if you're looking for the big bucks, I would consider doing something in that's less populated, a little more niche. But if you're just trying to get in and you want to get security experience, a lot of people go towards SOC and knock for networking and security. Um, NTFS, new technology file system. So hard drives. This is a good one for hard drives. So um, a lot of hard drives are formatted uh, in uh, as a NTFS. Uh, yeah, so that its file system is set up specifically for that. Most Windows devices and some Linux and Mac devices use NTFS. There's FAT32 and FAT, right, as a different uh, uh, different different uh, file systems that you can use. Um, and there's various other ones that I can't name off the top of my head, but I know there's more. So uh, yeah, that's NTFS, NTLM, New Technology Land Manager. Haven't seen this one too often here, but a LAN manager, a local access, look, uh, a local access network. Or sorry, am I blinking out here? I think, yeah, yeah. Sorry, local area network, not local access. That's more the sleep talking than me. But local area network manager. I would assume this kind of handles the network or something here. Haven't heard of this one too often, but context clues, local area network manager, a manager inside of a client's handling handling its connections from within, or uh, a switch connected to a bunch of devices, or those devices connected to the router. Also, also, which is a local area network, and then it's a manager for that. NTP, Network Time Protocol. So this is used to synchronize the time on client devices. Um, NTP Sec is a is a security protocol for NTP. OCSP. I always get this confused for OSP, or the the pen the pen testing certificate. Uh, um, I believe they're the same act. Well, no, the it's OSCP and then this is OSCSP, um, online certificate status protocol. OSCP is used to automatically renew certificates from an online through an online portal. Usually doesn't usually it makes it a lot easier than certificates expiring and you having to like self-manage them after they expire, going back to the CA and then requesting new ones. OID, object identifier, um, really any tool that identifies a specific piece of data or information. Um, there's a lot of sensors that are OID, uh, but that's as far as I'm aware about that term. OS, operating system. So this one's a very popular term, used a lot in IT. People just say OS. They don't really say operating system too often. But an operating system is something like Windows uh, or Mac OS or Linux, right? Uh, and there's various flavors of Windows and Mac OS and Linux, right? Linux has a bunch of distributions: Ubuntu, Debian, Kali Linux, and then Windows has Windows 11, Windows 10, Windows 8, and you can keep going down the road. And then Mac OS has different tigers, or sorry, cats, um, as operating system names. Um, yeah, I think at some point they might have ran out. Um, I'm trying to remember here on what the latest one is. I think the latest one is Sonoma. Yeah, and then before that we had Ventura, and then Monterey. And I have no idea what those have to do with cats, but last I remember of the names was when they were cats. I think that was back. I think that was back a while ago. I think that was like 2010 or something when Mountain Lion was a version was the name of the operating system. OSI, uh, Open Systems Interconnection. Um, I have seen this term before used. I just can't think of a good example with this one. Um, OS uh, OS int open source intelligence. It is a huge framework used to basically do reconnaissance on uh, uh, using public information. Um, OSINT is very a very big framework, and a lot of security professionals use it. There's a website actually, if I could pull it up here, called osintframework.com, where it exposes all the different ways you can find information on people. So if you wanted to search for usernames, there is a giant search engine, right? That are available, and it will take you straight to them. So like if you go to that's them and searching up people's names, you can start getting information out of people and kind of run down through this list to really see someone's digital footprint, right? So yeah, it's protect your information and make sure that you don't have anything out there you don't want out there. Um, OSPF, open shortest path first. Um, I've seen this one as well. Excuse me. This one, this one is more of a routing term to that's used to like I guess connect to or use or find the shortest path of least resistance from a networking perspective. Um, I believe there's an algorithm behind this one, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Um, OT, operational technology, operations, very important. There are many jobs in OT. Um, um, sysadmins kind of fall in that realm. They do handle day-to-day operations for a business. Help desk, right? There's another one. IT support. Um, um, so yeah, uh, OT, OTA over the air. Uh, over the air. I haven't not too familiar with this one, but I think it's I've heard the term used before, but I just think it's just a term of sending data wirelessly. And when they say over the air, it just really is like a wireless uh, data send. Over the air updates is a very like heavily used uh, like wording in like company documents. Tesla, for example, sends out firmware updates for their cars over the air, but really it's just through like a satellite, which is wirelessly communicating that to the cars, right? OTG on the go. Uh, don't have a good example for that one. Oval, open vulnerability and assessment language. OWASP. Okay, a very popular one here. OWASP um, is a is is like a is a is a popular worldly renowned uh, uh, security project, right? It has a huge online community behind it. Believe it stands for Open Web Application Security Project, um, and it is dedicated to all the different types of web vulnerabilities and what security practices you're supposed to be using in your web applications and all the core principles of ensuring that you're secure on the web. Websites are vulnerable to things like SQL injection, and if you have broken authentication, cross-site scripting, um, using plain text, like not using SSL on your website, uh, uh, um, and various other things. But yeah, OWASP is a huge um, um, project or framework to follow. OWASP always releases the top 10 of what of this current year report at the end towards the end of the year. So like in this case, 2013. I think we can probably pull it up just for the sake of demonstration here, just to see what vulnerabilities are out there for 2023. So let's see here. Uh, so we got a blog post here, kind of indicating the top 23, top vulnerabilities or web vulnerabilities in 2023. Um, as as we know, broken access control has always kind of been there, but it's definitely rising. Cryptographic failures, injection, SQL injection, cross-site scription, command injection, LDAP injection, XML injection, server-side template injection, insecure design, unpatched systems, security vulnerability, security configurations, unprotected files and directories. You name it. Just a slew of um, web-based vulnerabilities, and they kind of are very similar each year, right? I think we'll see a lot of AI ones kind of come up this next year, but uh, this next year in 2024. But yeah, it is something to know and be updated on as a security professional. P12 or PKCS. So this is related to certificates, public key certificate, something. um, I could probably look it up, but just trying to get it off the top of my head. Uh, yeah, but PKCS is when whenever you sign a certificate, some of them are generated. I know in Linux you could use like a key tool command to, or not a key tool command, but rather a certificate signing tool, right? And it would generate various certificates, uh, P12 being one of them. Peer to peer, P2P. Uh, um, so peer to peer, the best example I can give is like torrents. If you've ever used like BitTorrent or uTorrent before, you have people hosting a file or many people hosting a file called peers, and then or sorry, seeders, and then um, and then you have peers going and um, grabbing those files. So hosting a file for someone else, they're grabbing it, and you're kind of exchanging. Uh, you're kind of doing exchange there. It's most of the time decentralized. There's no like monitoring body uh, watching what's going on, right? And there's a lot of illegal stuff going on in the peer-to-peer space. Unfortunately, there's also a lot of uh, corporate things going on, like people buying digital goods on web stores, and then those web stores removing that content and not really giving your money back. Uh, is a small example. I know on like Amazon Prime, if you were to buy a movie, Amazon Prime could take that movie down off their Prime app and website, and you wouldn't have access to it, even though you bought it. You bought the movie full price. So I don't got too many comments on on how the peer to peer space is currently, but there uh, it exists and it's there. Um, uh, PaaS, platform as a service. So this is when you're provided the infrastructure and the OS kind of all set up for you. The best example I can give here is the cloud technologies. That is PaaS straightforward, right? Um, and then SaaS is when when everything is kind of done for you outside of outside of how the software works. Like you just kind of punch in your data and then boom, everything kind of works, right? But PaaS, you have to go and set up the software on the platform for it to work. similar to how Azure, Google Cloud, AWS work. Uh, PAC, proxy auto configuration. So automatic proxy configuration. Um, haven't seen it used before. Or this, haven't seen this term used too often. But yeah, that's good to know. PAM, privileged access management. So PAM is actually used in a lot of systems. Um, um, PAM in of itself is a relatively old uh, uh, technology, right? But essentially, it's a process of kind of setting up access management for privileged accounts, and and it's essentially used to have control over those privileged accounts, their access and their permissions, et cetera, and what they can do in the IT environment. And and the main usage for it is just to decrease the attack surface, make sure that any privileged accounts are monitored and watched, and their rights and permissions are set up solely for their duties, right? Um, so I really hope they don't use both in the exam. But we got another one, PAM, pluggable authentication modules. This one is new. Haven't heard of this one before. Um, um, yeah, I hope they don't use these interchangeably in the exam. That'd be really unfortunate. PAP, password authentication protocol. Um, that one does show up in the Sec Plus, um, and there's various forms of PAP. Um, um, yeah, can't think of too many examples here. PAT, port address translation, so similar to NAT, but for ports. Uh, PBKDF2, password based key derivation function 2. So I did see a few questions related to this one. Um, just trying to think here. Um, of an example. I think the main idea here is just so that it removes it causes a resistance for brute force attacks and rainbow and dictionary attacks. Can't think of an example as to what what would have it, if that makes sense. But that can be a discussion for later. PBX. Are we at the bottom? Nope. We still got another page. Okay, well, let's finish this up this page. PBX, private branch exchange, PCAP, packet capture. So Wireshark does use this. If anyone is curious, PCAP files are the file format that Wireshark saves the packet capture in. So if you ever use Wireshark to capture some packets, well, that's the format you'll get them in. Uh, SCEP, Simple Certificate Enrollment Protocol. Okay, SDK. Uh, SDKs are used heavily in software development. Mobile SDKs are very popular. Android has a lot of them, and I would assume Apple does as well. Uh, um, they're they're very powerful. They contain a lot of data and are used to basically build the apps that you and I use today. Um, mm, they just help. They're a kit of uh, of of software that just helps with faster development, uh, faster integration into products. You can deploy it, ship it to production quicker. You can expand it. Usually, there's fewer risks because they're kind of validated by higher level organizations that do have the funding to pay for uh, higher level developers, and they can help increase your sales if you're a small indie company or indie gamer game company or a small app design company. So yeah, SDKs. SDLC, software development lifecycle. So this is the process in which software should be developed, right? So it is it has a couple phases, um, um, and kind of just goes in a big circle, right? Uh, when you're trying to build a piece of software, there usually is a planning, and then followed by an analysis, then followed by design, then followed by the implementation, and then followed by testing and integration, and then followed by maintenance, right? Um, and various there's various forms of wording that can be used in the SDLC. You'll most of the time hear just like there's a building phase, there's a testing phase, there's a deployment phase, planning, and then there's a designing, and then you might hear defining in there. But wording wise, it's just a cycle of phases that go in a big circle, and essentially help create good software, right? Good coding practices, and how to go about building software, testing it, and ensuring that it works, right? Um, uh, SDLM, software development lifecycle methodology. So I think these two kind of go hand in hand, but I think the methodology is more of the idea of well, let me back up. So SDLC, there's various methodologies to build software, and what I was forgetting was the methodologies that do exist are essentially used in companies to uh, to help churn the software process quicker. So there's various forms: agile, waterfall. Uh, you have a lean, spiral uh, testing. If you've ever gone through a computer uh, a software development or a computer focused degree, these is probably something you have went through. Um, a lot of companies use these methodologies in their day to day to develop their software. Um, and I think the most popular one is agile. A lot of businesses are kind of leaning towards agile because it's a quick lift and shift to something else if it's not working out, right? And then the other ones, it takes a little longer to to stop. Yeah, once I get into more leadership roles, that's something that I will know more about. But right now, it isn't something that I do since I'm not a software developer. Um, SDN, software-defined networks. Um, so SDNs kind of uses like a central hub to uh, for software, kind of like um, yeah, yeah. That's what I'd have to do a little more reading on. I I I did search up this one just because I thought it was relevant to some of the questions that I went over. But yeah, what does it say? To review the control plane where to send network traffic and the data plane sends the traffic onward according to what the control plane tells it. In a software defined network, the control plane is operated by the software while the data plane remains under the operations of the hardware. Some examples could be like APIs. Um, okay, good to know. SDP, delivery platform. Um, the idea of delivering an app or a service. Some people's jobs are just dedicated to this. So if you're ever looking into a delivery manager or project management or someone who just kind of guides the project from start to finish, there's jobs for that. And if you're good at it, there's good money in that as well. SDV, software defined visibility. I think this one I haven't heard too much of. And then SED, self encrypting drives. This one's a good example of devices were stolen and uh, um, the those devices needed to get encrypted or they were trying to get remotely accessed. It'd be nice if their drives were encrypted. Uh, and then SEH, structured exception handling. I think that's where I think that is where we will stop tonight. We went a little over, but that's okay. Um, Still got a lot more of these to do. So yeah, we will continue tomorrow. And today we stopped at SEH, and we'll start at SFTP uh, tomorrow. So thanks for watching. Once we are done with this phase of the acronyms, we'll move over to something a little bit more fun where we will kind of do test and kind of time ourselves. Use like Professor Measures uh, exams uh, uh, to answer some questions that would be very similar to the actual Security Plus. Okay, with that being said,